the best assault rifle loadouts for Warzone 2. So we're starting out with the Kastov 7.62, which is currently #1 in my opinion, but we're going to go through plenty more that can be used as alternatives. We're starting out with the second Tread 40 for vertical and horizontal recoil control. For the tuning, we set the recoil control to 0.11 inches and the recoil stabilization to 0.49 ounces. Next, we put on the Cast 10 584mm barrel for damage range, bullet velocity, hip fire accuracy, and recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed, hip recoil control, and movement speed. Set the tuning to 0.28 inches and the recoil steadiness to 0.26 pounds. Put on the lock grip precision 40 for hip fire accuracy, which doesn't really matter in my opinion. The recoil steadiness is the big thing because it has phenomenal vertical recoil control as it says in the description, and aim walking steadiness at the cost of some aim down sight speed. If you don't want this, I mean, I don't really know what you use as an alternative. Maybe the Hex 40, maybe the Pineapple, but I can't really think of any other one. This is the best one for the AK. For the tuning, I did absolutely nothing, so don't change anything in the tuning area. I put on a 40 round mag just because starting out with 30 is not ideal and having 20 is definitely not the best choice in Warzone. Last but not least, I put on the MW2, but this is personal preference. You can choose any one that you want to. Honestly, there's so many choices, but I would prefer this one because it's the best choice. I set the far distance max down the negative side, and here is the first weapon to test out. It's so easy to use, and in my opinion is probably one of the most dangerous weapons in Warzone. And if you guys want to see it with 3 plates, it does just as much damage and it's just as crazy and very easy to use. Next, we're moving on to the Lachmann 5.56, aka the Grawl. We're starting out with the Harbinger D20 for sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking speed. Set the bullet velocity at 0.55 inches and the recoil smoothness to 1.08 ounces. I chose high velocity, but I'm starting to want to use hollow point, so whichever one you want to use. High velocity is probably ideal for this class setup, but if you shoot the legs, hollow point is good for you. Either way, set the bullet velocity at 8.42 GR and the damage range of 0.59 Gs. Put on the 15.9 Lachmann wrap barrel for recoil control, bullet velocity, damage range, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control. Set the damage range of 0.01 inches or just don't change it at all, but set the recoil steadiness to 0.37 pounds. And once again, the MW2. The end product is beautiful and in my opinion very easy to use. This weapon has some of the least amount of recoil out of any weapon in Warzone, so make sure you're trying this out. Super high fire rate and very fast to kill. Next, we're moving on to my baby, which is the Cronen Squall. Now I know some people are going to complain and say this is a battle rifle, but guess what? You're going to have to cry about it. Put on the second Tread 40 for vertical recoil control and horizontal recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. Set the tuning for the recoil control to 0.28 inches and the recoil stabilization to 0.59 ounces. Put on the HR 6.8 barrel for damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed, hip recoil control, and movement speed. Set the damage range of 0.37 inches and the recoil steadiness to 0.39 pounds. Put on the 6.8 high velocity for bullet velocity at the cost of some damage range, or use hollow point, whichever one you want to use. Like I said before, set the bullet velocity at 8.71 GR and the damage range of 0.50 Gs. Put on a 50 round drum just because it's ideal. And MW2, once again, this is just the best attachment in my opinion for optics. In a competition for low recoil and high damage, this is definitely one of the kings. Now the only downside is long range. It does get a little more complicated. There's a little bit more recoil, but as you guys see, it's not really that much. And before I get the alternative, the Lachmann 5.56 optic, is all you guys have to do is throw on the lock grip precision if you want more vertical. If you want horizontal, you can quite literally just use something along the lines of the F-Tac Tiger, so you can get just overall recoil stabilization and you'll be good to go. The next gun is an underrated weapon, the TAC 56, which is crazy because this was meta at first. We're starting out with the Harbinger D20 for sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking speed. Next, we're putting on the 17.5 Tundra Pro barrel for damage range, hip fire accuracy, and bullet velocity at the cost of aim down sight speed and hip recoil control. 5.56 high velocity for bullet velocity at the cost of damage range, or using hollow point, just copy the tuning. Tuning is going to be maxed out on the bullet velocity and the damage range is going to be at 0.61 Gs. I put on a 40 round mag. You can use 60. I just don't really think it's necessary. And then the last thing I put on there is the TV Cardinal stock for aim walking speed and sprint speed at the cost of aiming stability. If you can't handle the iron sight, then feel free to throw on the MW2. This is just my personal preference. You can just take off the last stock. As you guys see, this build is super easy to use. In my opinion, it has super low recoil and does amazing damage. Even long range, it does a good job, which is what you really want. Now, if you want a better no recoil build, throw on the second Tread 40, increase the recoil control of 0.16 inches, recoil stabilization of 0.38 ounces, and now you have even less recoil as it was. Look how easy this is. Even at long range, just absolutely busted. Last but not least is everyone's favorite weapon, the M4. We're going to throw on the Sack and Tread 40 for vertical and horizontal recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming stability. Set the tuning at 0.19 inches for recoil control and 0.41 ounces for recoil stabilization. Put on the high tower 20-inch barrel for recoil control, damage range, bullet velocity, and hip fire accuracy at the cost of aim down sight speed and movement speed and hip recoil control. Set the tuning at 0.36 inches and the recoil steadiness 0.31 pounds. Put on a 60 round mag, Choreo Precio Factory for aiming stability and recoil control at the cost of aim walking speed, sprint speed, aim down sight speed, and crouch movement speed. And if you don't want that, just put on the lock grip precision for less negatives. Last but not least, the AIMOT V4. Here's the end product right here. This thing is absolutely amazing, but you have to keep in mind you have to get those chest shots on point, because otherwise you're going to be struggling and not get all your kills. Now this is a bonus, but I wanted to go over it because it's basically an AR SMG hybrid. It's the Kastov 74U. What I'm going to initially put on there is the Echoless 80 or the D20, whichever one you want to use. I want a little bit more handling and mobility, so we're going to have the Echoless 80. We're going to increase the bullet velocity to around 44 inches, and the recoil smoothness, we're going to increase that by 0.78 ounces. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put on the 45 round mag. Next, I'm going to throw on this beautiful gold camo to keep it legit and give the BO1 vibes. You already know, if you're an OG, comment down below. But there's a couple other things you can do at this point. So you don't actually need a barrel. You can put one on there if you want to, SA Ultra 3, if you want to, for aim down, sight speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control. Now, if you want some more damage, KSTV 17 would be ideal, and it kind of act like an AK, 47. But like I said, you don't actually need a barrel. These are just options I'm giving you guys like right off the rip. Next thing we're putting on is the hollow point, increasing bullet velocity of 4.50 GR or just around the 5 range, but 4.50 seems to be the sweet spot. If you can land it on there, let me know in the comment section down below. Increase the damage by around 0.27 G. Next, we're going to throw on an interesting stock. What I want to do is either put on the Atrazat stock for aim, walking speed, and sprint speed, or if you want some more recoil control, you can most likely put on the KSTV RPK Factory. But you guys see it reduces aim, walking speed, sprint speed, aim down sight speed, and crouch movement speed. So it's really all that you're aiming for. I'm going to go with the Atrazat stock in this case, and I'm going to increase the aiming auto stability. Looks like it has a little bit of effect, but trust me, you want to have that on there, and increase the aim down sight speed. Next, what we're going to do is put on the VLK Laser 7NW, or basically the equivalent, which is the Choreo Las 44. It helps the aim down sight speed and aiming stability. So throw that on there, increase aim down sight speed, increase sprint fire speed, and here's the end result. This is the overall build, but I'm going to give you guys one more build afterwards. This thing is absolutely amazing. This is going to help with short to medium range. Long range is going to be a little more complicated, but as you guys see, it still gets the job done. And just to show you guys how it is in Warzone, this is going to be the equivalent. As you guys see, it still does an amazing job. Short to medium range, I would avoid long range with that. Now, one thing I will suggest, if you guys want some more recoil control, we can throw off the Choreo Las, and instead what we can do is we can throw on the lock grip precision. This thing is amazing. It's basically my go-to for the underbarrel. What ends up happening when you control that, see how the recoil is a lot more manageable. That's something I would suggest if you want a little more recoil control. Long range is still a little more scary, but it basically feels like you have more of a hitbox with long range. So if you want to try this out, this is definitely an AR SMG hybrid that I would highly recommend. Like, it has really good mobility, it has good movement speed, and the ADS movement speed is actually fantastic too. So this is something highly recommended. Let me know how you feel about it in the comment section down below if this is a good bonus build. If not, let me know how you feel about it and what you could use as an alternative.